welcome to Saturday Night Talk Away. I'm Danielle Nicholls. This is Andre Walker.
No, do it again.
Oh, God.
Do it again.
Okay.
I'm not joking.
I'm Danielle Nicholls. This is a fantastic, clever, amazing, awe-inspiring,
attractive,
blue-shirted,
beautifully attractive,
waistcoated,
tie slightly off,
slight tinting hairdo, Andre Walker.
Thank you very much. And this is Danielle, a person I like to think of as somebody I worked with. Anyway,
you think he's joking?
You and I get on well together, but we have had a difference of opinion this week, haven't we?
Oh, we've had a fight this week.
Now, we will introduce our guest co-host today, is Andrew Eborn, who I know has been phenomenally popular in the past couple of weeks. By popular demand, and we didn't get to your camera quickly enough.
Oh, no, they didn't, did they? Well, it was so nice to see you. Thank you for
But look, we've had disagreement this week, haven't we? And I'm going to say to you the following. I think the cancellation of the northern leg of HS2 is absolutely the right thing for this country, and I'm going to explain why. You and I have both taken the West Coast Main Line on multiple occasions. You take it from Manchester Piccadilly, I take it from Warrington Bank Quay, but north of Birmingham, there are only 4 trains per hour on the West Coast Main Line, and actually, the whole HS2 project for me was missold. Basically, they kept saying it was about being quicker this and quicker that. It's not. The West Coast Main Line in between London and Birmingham, places like Watford, places like Wembley, places like Tring, places like Berkhamsted need additional capacity. So all they're trying to do is get people quickly from London to Birmingham so that they can have a local stopping service for people in the south of England. I do think there should be more rail in the north, but I think it should be Transpennine. Now, Danielle...
Is it my turn?
It's fair to say...
Is it my turn? Right, OK. This north-south divide is really doing my head in. And anybody out there is watching, and I know we have northern fans of the show, well, I completely agree.
I'm not the sort
This is the way I feel. Of course, HS2 is a big fat waste of money, right? We all know that. Absolutely. What a load of rubbish. It shouldn't cost as much money. These just get the train service that exists, get them better, put better services on, put more services on. We all know that they didn't need to plough all this money into this magic train. However, they did. So they decided to do it, but only to Birmingham. That's the bit that really makes me angry. You cannot then say, oh, we'll just now they've got another fantastic link from from Birmingham to London. You don't need it. I used to live in Birmingham. You don't need another great link between Birmingham and Manchester, London. It's fine. But now they just left all the north of England out of the equation. We don't mind and we don't matter. And who cares about the northerners? Well, I care. I care about the northerners. I care.
Right, wait for this, folks. But what about those people in Berkshire and Surrey and Buckinghamshire?
I've already had a row with a guest that Andre brought in, so Andre's brought in a work experience. That sounds very odd, doesn't it? However, he said, how much time door to door? I said, door to door, and that's if you go in convenient hours, it's 4 hours, right? He said, no, it's not, blah, blah, blah. I had to stop him. He said, oh, I get on at Stockport. Completely different equation altogether. Completely different equation altogether.
Andrew, I'm going to ask you this as a serious question.
Go for it.
So, look, there is a real problem with public infrastructure in this country. That's not the question, by the way. That's simply a comment.
A fact.
But for me, if you are going to do something in terms of that, what you would do is make sure you relieve the excess, relieve the lack of capacity in the southeast of England. But in the north, you should do all of the projects that Rishi Sunak listed. Now, my question to you, as somebody who's been a seasoned commentator for a long time, do you believe that Rishi Sunak is genuine when he says we're not going to spend this $32 billion on the Northern Link, but we will spend it on projects in the north?
I think I've got a fantastic theory on this. Apart from being Manc Robbery, I love the north as well. I'm with you, Danielle, on that one.
Hang on. No.
I'll give you my answer.
How have I turned into the southerner?
Yeah, you're a southerner.
You can tell my great northern accent. This is wonderful.
Andrew, everybody who does an impersonation of me makes me sound like Johnny Vegas. How can
I reckon Sunak has been incredibly clever because what he's done, he's promised it to lots of other people so that he realises it's not this election which is going to come up, which he's going to win, but maybe the next one which the Conservatives are going to do. So what's going to happen is Keir Starmer will come in with his people and he'll say, well, what am I going to do about HS2? I probably had to reverse that, but if I reverse it, I'm going to upset all the people that Sunak's promised the new money to. So what Sunak did in his speech, he turned around and said, we're going to spend every single penny elsewhere. So Euston, we have a problem problem. But you work on that sort of principle that the infrastructure, the lifeblood of what we've got is right.
Where are they going to spend every single penny then?
Well,
because
the devil's in the details, yes.
Exactly. So I've lived in Manchester. I've lived in Scotland.
Yes.
I've lived down here, down
What
south.
a weekend that was.
Yeah, all over the place.
Good.
So I have got a very wide view of what it looks like, and there is no way in any way that our capacity for public transport is anything like it is down south.
But let me give you an example, right? So near where I'd come from, they've got a major problem. Lee is one of the largest towns in the United Kingdom.
It is indeed,
not to have a railway station, and obviously there's no obvious solution to that. What I would like to see is the Manchester tram extended all the way across Greater Manchester. Now, I genuinely believe that's more useful. And I'll tell you the reason. Because the problem that you have when you travel around this country, and to be fair, the three of us have done it a fair amount, right? If you want to go to London, you're fine. If you want to go, so if you decide you want to go from, say, I don't know,
a town to a town,
Rotherham to Glasgow, right? Then suddenly you start having a problem. I had a friend who lived in Peterborough. Yeah, I had a friend who lived in Peterborough. Now you know, I lived on the outskirts of Greater Manchester. You know, Manchester and Peterborough.
I lived in Peterborough.
Are fair-sized places, right?
Yeah.
Yes. It's a nightmare to get that. I'd say that Trans-Pennine Express, and I'm not blaming the operator necessarily on this occasion. The infrastructure is out of date.
No, and you're absolutely right. What we need to make
However, by the way, can I just point this out?
When
the train's running from Peterborough, they do run into the early hours of the morning, as they do to Kent, as they do in almost
and
everywhere.
And shout out to Hull Trains, who kept on doing things. I had a big event on down that sort of stuff.
If you live up north, everything stops at 9 o'clock, apparently. And you just don't go anywhere or do anything.
The other scandal is this. We need to have a connected railway to make sure that the lifeblood, the pumping heart of this country is connected. They are the arteries. The scandal is this. It costs me more to go to Manchester than it does to go down to Nice. And I fly around all over the world, and it's crazy.
I have just flew to Portugal for less than it cost me to come to London every week.
That is my point. We need to look at that. We need to get the great people of Britain travelling, using the trains, environmentally friendly, but the cost of it is horrendous. I'm sure people have got a view.
People are getting in touch.
Oh, they are. People have a view.
Go and read that.
Oh, my God. The presenter on at the moment is an absolute piece of a Greek goddess. Okay.
Look at you.
I will have that. It's obviously you, isn't it? Unbelievable. Beautiful. Eye-popping dress. Well done. You've revitalised a farm worker who just spent 8 hours and come home to that. That lassie's dress has revived me. Stunning. Please pass it on.
It's not the dress he likes.
Thank you.
It's not the dress he likes. Right.
It's the Victoria's Secret underneath.
By the way, before we go to our calls, I just want to say one thing that has been a joy for me today. I've discovered that I've won in the Runnymede Arts Society raffle.
What did you win?
I'm not joking. I've won some Neil's Yard citrus shower gel. RRP,
citrus one as well.
So but you know what I do want to say? I want to thank the Runnymede Arts Society simply because local painting, we should all support it. Local artists, right? That's my plug.
Look at you doing something nice about art for once.
Shut up, they paid me.
Ken, that's all. We've got Ken on the line who wants to talk about HS2. Hi, Ken. Can you hear us okay?
Hey, Ken.
Yes.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. But in my opinion, my humble opinion as a bricklayer, I believe in the current economic world situation which we are in, it would be total folly for the UK government to spend over 100 billion with the rising costs on a new train line which would take 35 minutes off of a train journey. This is absolute folly even to consider.
Ken, can I ask you
It is, but why did they half do it? They should have never done it in the first place, Ken. That was my point. Don't half do it. So it should never have been passed in the first place. They should just improve the links.
I totally agree with you, Danielle.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. But listen, if you don't mind, there is something taking place in the world right now which is leading us to the Battle of Armageddon. The battle for Israel and Jerusalem. This is what we should be talking about, because the world is rushing right now into a hurricane of warfare, and it's all going to focus on Israel, hatred of the Jew, hatred of Israel, we are in big trouble. And this is
It's
all
not good
in
news,
the
is it,
Bible.
Ken?
I've got to
This
say
is
to you,
all in
Ken.
the Bible, which you mock. You mock the Bible.
I don't mock the Bible.
Recorded in the Bible.
I don't mock the Bible,
Ken, can I ask you this? I was reading about WACFA's comments. They are the authority, the Jordanian authority that runs the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which, by the way, is the Jewish temple of Jerusalem. I have to say to you, I genuinely think that it is wholly reasonable, well, actually beyond reasonable, the arrangements are at the moment that whilst any religion can visit the Al-Aqsa Mosque, which is the Temple Mount of Judaism, only Muslims can pray there. And the fact is there have been some Jewish people who have decided to break that rule and decided to pray there, even though it's against the rules in both Israel and of the Jordanian authority that runs it. I personally believe that this is the Jewish temple. It's clearly there first.
Of course it is.
Everybody who wants to pray there should be allowed to pray there. And I have to say, I don't agree with the Israeli government when they say that only Muslims should be allowed to pray there.
Of course, I agree with you totally here. This is the most sacred place in Jewish history, the Temple Mount. This is where the temple was, and this is where Jesus Christ was crucified.
Yeah.
Just to explain something to viewers and listeners.
Yes.
So, the Muslims believe that this is the place that Muhammad ascended into heaven. The thing that's interesting is the Temple Mount, the temple in East Jerusalem. Effectively, many Jewish people believe that nobody should go there, no Jews should go there until God builds a new temple himself. However, some Jewish people disagree with that and have been visiting there. As far as I am concerned, the idea that a group of Jewish people, however orthodox or however off the wall they appear to be, walking into the temple that their great-great-great-great-grandfathers built is justification for firing 5,000 rockets at civilians is simply grotesque and offensive. And I have to say, what was said earlier by, I think his name was Richard Hecht, Lieutenant Colonel Richard Hecht, when he said that they would kill every single person that has made the incursion into Israel, I have to say, I have a great deal of sympathy with that. I obviously would encourage the IDF to support the Geneva Convention, so anybody who surrenders. But when you have people coming in like this, murdering civilians, it is just, I have to say, absolutely despicable. And the religious justification is that, in addition to Muslims praying at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, Jews attempted to do it as well. I do not accept that as justification, Ken.
I agree with a lot of what you said there. There's lots of things you talk about there. But let me just leave you with this final point, and thank you for the time. What is happening here is we are headed towards the Battle of Armageddon. It's in Revelation chapter 16. And this is the time when Jesus Christ will return. We don't know the day or the hour, but what's going to happen in the future is that what the armies of the world, due to hatred of the Jew, hatred of Israel, are going to flood into Israel and take a siege against Jerusalem, and that will trigger the return of Jesus the Messiah. And Messiah returns to defend Israel and destroy all the armies of the world who are gathered against his people, because Jesus the Messiah is the King of Israel, and he's coming to establish.
Okay, Ken, thank you so much. Let's hope it doesn't happen in the next couple of weeks.
I'll tell you what, it's not good news, is it? It's up to 150 people now that have been killed. I
think there will be. I think, Andrew, there will be serious questions by the intelligence services.
You're absolutely right. And I think what's abhorrent are some of the images that are coming out, some of the videos, and as soon as you personify it,
salt it a minute, because they're not all verified. We have to always understand.
It's always that. I always say question everything.
Yes.
But the reality is, behind every one of these stories, there are individuals, and it's about personality. We get numb to statistics. And
And the thing is, there's no concept in any situation should people suffer.
No,
this is just awful.
What about the argument that I personally do not believe, because I will always say what my bent is with this. My family are from Northern Ireland, and I personally believe that all sides in Northern Ireland have done phenomenally well to come together. I don't personally, my mother was an Irish Republican because she was an Irish Catholic from Belfast. I personally am a unionist. I don't believe either of us believed you should be killing each other over it. But is there an argument that justifies this? And I don't believe in this argument, but is there an argument that justifies this incursion on the basis that the Gaza Strip continues to be an incredibly hellish place to live?
I think it's very, very sad, and I think what you need to do is get both sides and talk it sensibly. I always believe, I know it's a phrase you don't like, but it's jaw, not war. It's not my phrase. But the reality is, going around killing people and the horrendous stuff that we see is not right. You're right, we can make arguments on both sides. My job as a lawyer, I can make arguments for anything.
Yes.
But the reality is...
And with any argument, what you have to understand is there's two sides to every single argument.
And let's have those discussions with respect, bearing in mind the tremendous history that's there and the sensitivities on both sides. And let's make sure, I always say, let's put more light and less heat on these situations and work on that basis.
There is a very famous academic called Avi Shlaim.
Yes.
He's the only person ever to have become a professor at Hebrew University, having failed his PhD.
There you go.
And the reason he failed it was he wrote a book called The Iron Wall. And what he effectively said was that one of the big problems they have in the Middle East is that Jewish people from Europe were traumatised by the Holocaust and wanted to create what he called Eretz, which is the Iron Wall Israel, which is basically we will no longer trust non-Jewish people to protect our security. Well, of course, the problem is now you go to a multicultural, multi-ethnic place like Palestine and you create Iron Wall Israel, and of course what it does is it causes significant ethnic tensions in the area. Now, I have to say to you, I agree with Avi Shlaim on the basis that, yes, there is no doubt that under the Ottomans, the whole of this place was very multicultural and whatever. Now most Jewish people in the Middle East live in Israel, and indeed Palestinians have left Israel. But at the same time, given that's happened, the solution now is not to abolish the state of Israel. The solution is to say mistakes were made in the past. There has been a degree of ethnic cleansing on both sides, but now we are where we are. Let's have some sort of peaceful solution. If you look at what happened between Israel and Egypt, the demilitarisation of the Sinai led to that territory being given back.
Well, the other thing we need to do in the media is actually shine a spotlight on some of the things that are not being reported. And there's some atrocities that people are sending direct feeds, and I'm on all sorts of different groups trying to get balance in these sort of things. Some atrocities are not being reported. And I think what we need to do is to say, let's have a look at this, have sensible discussions if we can, but be really, really sensitive about both sides.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right, because I think if people feel that they're not being represented, that just makes people angrier and angrier.
And work out why things are not being reported.
Exactly.
That's what we need to look at.
I think the other thing is, and I will say this as a genuine point, the practice by Hamas of putting their fighters and their military infrastructure inside things like schools and hospitals is absolutely deplorable. And unfortunately, it leaves us in the position, which has happened many times, where missile and airstrikes take place on facilities that were deliberately there will be civilian casualties in order.
So what we need to do is to shine a spotlight on those, have a really detailed discussion, make sure that both sides are represented, and talk about those stories that we're hearing about, which are not being reported.
Now, Andrew, you're going to love the thing we've got out after the break.
Go on, then.
Because we've got a guy on who has sued the Conciliation Service ACAS
I know about this.
for not being conciliatory.
Sean Corby, I know, absolutely.
We've got Sean Corby. Honestly, they're the Conciliation Service.
You couldn't make it up.
Anyway, he sued them over Black Lives Matter. We're going to be meeting him straight after this.
We've just been brought a gift into the studio.
Put it down.
And Andre is having a little bit of a mature moment, shall we say. Are you on the menopause?
You were talking about the menopause.
I know. We're talking about that in a bit, by the way.
As you get older, your testosterone drops.
Oh, look, don't let him tell you. I'll tell you.
You get more lazy and fat.
More lazy and more fat.
Please say that's happened already to me.
No, it's happening, and it's happening slowly. It doesn't happen in the same way it happens for a woman.
Well, you reckon I'm going to get more lazy and more fat?
No,
I think that's almost impossible.
It's already. What I'm saying, he's already started. Is what I'm saying.
It's going to be good.
Right, the next bit I've genuinely been looking forward to introducing, because the Conciliation Service ACAS, whose job it is to get sides together before they go to employment tribunals, has been taken to an employment tribunal itself, where it has lost against one of its employees, Sean Corby, who tweeted some things in opposition to Black Lives Matter. And effectively what the Conciliation Service said was that he had to take those tweets down. He felt that he was being discriminated against because he said that he was not opposing the rights of black people to be treated equally, but rather opposing an organisation that he felt had gone far too far in a number of ways. And so they said that he had to take down the tweets, and he decided not to. An employment tribunal has decided that his view, which is technically described as opposing critical race theory, is now protected under the Equalities Act. Sean joins us now. Sean, interesting to hear that the conciliation service wasn't very conciliatory.
Hello, good evening, Andre. Hi, everybody. Thank you for inviting me on. What actually happened was that on our intranet, which is like an internal organisation chat board, etc., kind of like an internal Facebook, where we news bulletins and other things like that, sharing of information. For quite a while now, there'd been a lot of information put up there that was very pro-critical race theory, pro-Black Lives Matter. And I saw this ever since 2020 when the George Floyd thing happened.
Yeah.
And I posted up some articles. It wasn't tweets, it was articles in the diversity and inclusion section of Yammer, that intranet notice board.
Oh, so it wasn't even public?
No, it was internal. It was internal. And the article, so the articles that I put up there were by mostly by black thinkers, like Inaya Falari Liman, Aisha Akambi, and I put a link to a biog of Howard Thurman, who was Martin Luther King's spiritual and intellectual mentor in many ways.
Yeah.
Right? Now, apparently, 4 members of the London team made a complaint, and I was instructed to take these posts down, which I immediately complied with, but wasn't given any reason really why. It went to a grievance, and when I was shown the complaint by the 4 London members of staff, who, by the way, didn't know anything about me, had never met me, they requested bodyguards because they claimed to be so unsafe by my house.
By the way, Sean,
Is that true,
Sean, just to be clear, they assumed that you were some crazed white guy, didn't they? Is that what you're implying?
Well, the statement that they wrote, these 4 people, four colleagues, they wrote a statement. Now, I can sincerely say that having read it, all I can describe it as being is unhinged, right?
Really?
They claimed that I had a deep-seated hatred for black people. They said that I was a racist. They said that I was a danger to the black colleagues in the office that I work with in Leeds, there in London. And they basically wanted me out of there. They wanted me tarnished as being a racist and kicked out. Now, one of the really disturbing things for me also is that one of them is very senior in the PCS union. She's a self-proclaimed ethnocentric activist. She appeared on the front page of the Morning Star communist newspaper last year. She writes for The Guardian. She calls herself an artist. Somebody that you'd think would have some kind of intelligence to realise that what I've posted, the ideas that I'm promoting, are actually truly conciliatory and certainly not those of a racist.
Well, I followed your story, Sean, because I think it's fantastic, and I truly believe, and I think our Talk TV viewers believe and understand the importance of free speech and the problems that do arise from telling people what they can and can't say. It's obvious views should be criticised, not silenced, shouldn't they? Should be allowed to have your opinion. However, I love your story, and I love the fact that that person bit off well more than she could chew, didn't she?
Well, yeah, and it's nice to hear your northern accents. I'm a Huddersfield lad.
Hurrah.
I'm from Manchester. We're good as northerners.
So
we can't get to London very fast on HS2, but
and not cheaply either.
Oh, do shut up, Danielle. Right, come on. Sean, no, let Sean speak. Come on, Sean.
No, you're quite right that views need to be challenged. I want my own views to be challenged. Yes. I didn't seek to silence them. I've never sought to silence anybody there about any views that they expressed. I've actually challenged them and would like to engage in dialogue with them. And if there's something that I need to rethink, then I will do. You know, we don't think the same things all our lives, and we gather information. But they did bite off more than they can chew, because I really deeply believe that what they've done is wrong. And
may I ask something, Sean? Now that you've got your victory, have the people that were criticising you had a chance to respond to that victory?
Well, the victory is not there yet, okay? Because what's happened was that the Employment Tribunal in Leeds was meant to be for 4 days, and it was meant to be the discrimination and harassment claim that I brought against ACAS. Now, on the first day, the judge announced that I'd have to satisfy the Granger test, which is the legal framework for assessing whether somebody has a deeply held philosophical belief, and therefore that they're protected under the Equalities Act. So I had to undergo some very intense cross-examination to prove that the ideas that I was sharing weren't just views and opinions. That's the legal framework under which...
Right.
No, that's absolutely... So can I just clarify then, because for legal reasons, is the case still going on?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Okay,
so,
then I think we have to be very careful about that sort of side, yes?
Yeah.
So we reconvened.
Andrew, how careful do we have to be?
Well, very. It's another word, very. So that's why I think in the interest of balance, it's very interesting to hear your side of it. We should obviously hear the other side if there's a case we don't want to affect those proceedings, and when those proceedings come to a relevant judgment. What I would make is a
actually, Andrew, can I jump in here? Because here's the thing that Sean has raised. So forget the case for a second, because I think that's
important. We have
I'm just
generalities.
I'm segueing in that direction.
Good.
Don't worry.
Thank goodness I'm here.
We missed something in this form, but okay. No, to talk in general, what is interesting about this Granger test is something I didn't know about. So I can get into trouble for debating a point if it's not my heartfelt view. So as an example, we were talking earlier about Israel and Palestine.
Yes.
You know, somebody could have a go at me for saying what I said about that. And my only defence would be I had a heartfelt view, which I don't. I'm literally just debating the subject. That is not free speech, is it?
Well, I think there's a balance, isn't there? And the balance is this. You can talk about generalities, but you don't want to prejudice. This is the laws in this country. You don't want to prejudice any ongoing trials. So we're talking about generalities. You can look at this is what happens. And I find some of these things shocking. So I talked last time about the Alumni for Free Speech, who did a freedom of information request to about 50 universities about how much they're spending on equality, diversity and inclusion, as opposed to freedom of speech, which again is a right under the Human Rights Act and so on and so forth. And it turned out that they're spending 220 times as much on equality, diversity and inclusion as they are spending on freedom of speech. Wow. And I think that's an issue that we need to look at. But I always say it's freedom of speech, but not freedom from consequences. No. So we don't want to dig into, on this particular case, the rights and wrongs of this particular case, because that will be decided by the tribunal and let them go through that process. What we can talk about are the generalities, which we've touched on.
Day-to-day life,
but in general, and I'll say this to both of you, but perhaps to Sean first, I just feel like we've got a very small number of people across the board who have decided that they don't like free speech and they're going to abolish it. But I don't see the House of Commons, the House of Lords, the government deciding any of this. I feel it's just been independently decided by people. And I think there was a letter by various people who were senior in the civil service to the Cabinet Secretary a couple of weeks ago saying that, this whole idea of the trans narrative has now become the established rules. It doesn't matter what is decided democratically. It doesn't matter what the government or parliament says. And Sean, I just feel like that's the position we're in. This is law that has been made up by people and it enforced across the piece in a way that's just really hard to work out how it ever came about.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard it referred to as the tyranny of the minority. You know, there's a lot of people, a small number of people that are really seeking to obfuscate others and silence others. And, I agree that there's a balance here. There's two sides to the story. But some people seem to, at the early days of this case, thought that I might have said something kind of borderline, and therefore they've come at me, and then I've had to explain myself. That is not the case. As you may have read, now I didn't lead with this. When I went to the Free Speech Union, who've been absolutely magnificent in supporting me, and without them, I don't know what would happen to me. I'd have been in a really bad way, right? And this organisation and these four characters, one of whom is pretty influential, they would have crushed me.
Yeah.
But when I spoke to the Free Speech Union, told them what had happened, I spoke to the guy, Fraser Houghton, for the first 20 minutes, explained. And then I said, look, I don't like to lead by this because I think it's a bit crass, but you do need to know. And I told him about my family background. I'm married to a black woman of Jamaican descent. I've got 2 children, 2 sons who are of what people would say a mixed race.
Yep.
I grew up in a very mixed ethnic environment, around a lot of people socially, culturally. I was a jazz musician. I've been a professional musician touring with many great Jamaican artists, and I've dedicated my life in many ways to education, opportunities for working class people and for people from all backgrounds. So I am not that guy that these people...
Yeah, that they kind of assumed you were.
Sean,
I think a big assumption was made. Sean, I'm so sorry that we're going to have to say goodbye, but keep going. You're doing amazing, and thank you very much.
I'm just gonna get another plug in, and I'm being genuine about this. I'm a member of the Free Speech Union. You should join as well. Effectively, what they will do is, if you get into trouble at work, or if there's an internet pylon, or people attack you, then they will support you with paying your legal fees and bring in a team to defend you. I'll tell you what. Oh no, believe me, it's been worth me joining. It's been worth me joining. Anyway, talking of other organisations that I've joined, I recently joined Just Stop Oil. Take it away. Just stop oil! Just stop oil! Just stop oil! Come on, where are the cars?
I think you should stop protesting.
What do you think of Just Stop Oil?
I don't know.
I'm gluing my hand. Gluing the hand. Gluing the hand. Gluing the hand. What, like, Texas is a big oil drilling place. Do you think that Britain should be better at oil drilling and become more like Texas?
I think that they should have way more horses, way more cowboys. At least
we got more Texans. Do you love oil in Texas?
Yes.
What is the best thing about oil?
It makes my car go faster.
Just Stop Oil is a British protest group which sits in the middle of roads to stop people producing oil. Do you think that's good or bad?
That sounds good to me.
Why is it so good then?
Well, aren't we trying to save the planet a little bit?
Just stop oil! Just stop oil! Just stop! Ah, don't touch! How are you, big man?
Very good, how are you?
What do you think of Just Stop Oil?
That's fantastic, it's my favourite oil.
Look, you were really, really annoyed when you thought I was genuinely Just Stop Oil. Why was that?
Because everyone does really care about the cause, but we've got to earn money, we've got to, have a living, and they need to do things that's going to earn respect. This is just making an enemy of them.
I'll swap you T-shirt for hat. Come on.
It, though.
Do you have any idea who I am or what you're doing? Do you think British TV is a bit different to American TV?
Yes.
Good God, you love that, don't you? People have been complaining about your chest, but I think mine's worse.
It's the way
yours is a pretty sight.
I'm just used to it now. I'm used to the complaints.
Yeah.
I get worried when I've not got them.
Well, look, I'm really, really excited about this next guest. Actually, do you know what? This has been a great show so far. They're normally a bit average, if I'm being honest.
You are cheeky. This is just a good time to tell you that we're actually going to move to a later slot next week. So if you enjoy watching Andre and myself, then remember to tune in at 11 o'clock next week, because we're doing a live phone-in. So if you've ever wanted to get through and make your point and not quite been able to, I'll make a complaint about my chest, then you can do that. You can do that on the air at 11 o'clock.
So for next week, we're going to be filling Lizzie's slot rather than doing our own.
Oh,
what I love is the watershed, past the watershed at 11 o'clock.
Well,
so it'll be
exactly.
even more exciting.
So in theory,
it's going to be good.
We can be a little bit more juicy.
I think it's impossible to be more juicy than you currently are. But it's
okay, look, I've really been looking forward to having this guest in the studio.
Yes.
We've spoken to him a fair number of times, but there have been climate protests once again this week. And no, actually, do you know something? I love my producers to bits, but that actually is wrongly written. These aren't protests. These are just attempts to harass and disrupt people. I have no problem with people standing out with placards and talking about their issues, but the idea of just deliberately disrupting people for no greater purpose than your own arrogance and selfishness. Anyway, I think we've got the pictures of what Just Stop Oil did this week to Les Miserables. Let's take a look.
Have we got the clip?
Doesn't matter if...
So basically...
Here it is.
Crescendo of Les Mis.
I love the bit where the old lady goes, Oh, you're awful people. Oh, dreadful.
You rotters. Get off the stage.
You know what?
Scoundrels.
You're getting the view there from the most expensive seats.
You are.
That's why. So you've got the but believe me, when I would be watching it, which would probably be in the gods, you would be going, clearly, get off the stage.
But clearly they bought lots of tickets to sit in those expensive seats to film it. Well, so they knew this was coming.
They knew, didn't they?
Yeah, so look, I've wanted you on in the studio for a long time. Don't look at me like that.
Don't act surprised.
All right. I didn't want him here.
I'm waiting for the 16th. I'm waiting for
Brian Catt, who is a physicist and engineer.
Hey, welcome, Brian.
Somebody who's been really castigated for offering an alternative view on climate change. Look, we can discuss climate change itself, but I'd love to start much more with the difficulty we have now in having scientific debates. Because I think I said to you the other day on the radio show, pretty much everything that Aristotle said has now been proved to be wrong. But that's the way you develop science. And nobody would say that Aristotle was evil or wrong, or so bad for being wrong. Anyway, Brian, take it away.
Well, I'll give you Feynman's quote that I gave you the other day, that he didn't mind because that is the basis of science. And Freeman Dyson said the same thing, who was his mathematician. I don't mind not knowing things because that's the job of being a scientist.
Yes.
What worries me, I don't mind questions that can't be answered. What I don't like is answers that can't be questioned, because as soon as you come across an answer that can't be questioned, then you know there's something fishy about it.
Can I ask you, why do you think, because I see this, it feels a lot, that we now live in a society where once we are told something, we are not allowed to question it at all. In fact, you are criticised, you're penalised. Why are we not allowed? What's happened? Because surely we should be curious.
I recommend you to the works or the speeches of James Lindsay about cultural Marxism. And basically it's how you control a population by spreading a particular belief which you are required to have, otherwise you are a bad person.
Yeah.
And that allows them then to pass laws to enact things in the name of whatever it is they say is the case. Cognitive dissonance, it's abusive behaviour as well. It's the principle of abusive behaviour.
I was listening to Theresa May.
I wasn't expecting to say that. Sorry.
He says crazy things.
I was listening to an interview with Theresa May, and she said a lot of the problems that have come up in our society today is that in 1990, when the Soviet Union collapsed, people believed it was the end of history. Yes. They thought, now, the world is now free. We are now open to everything. Nobody considered the possibility that there are still going to be dark forces in the world. And I just wonder whether we now have this view that things are settled, aren't they? We now understand science. We now understand nature. We now understand
and it's actually worse than that, isn't it? Because what's happened now is that everybody's become an expert, and all of a sudden, exactly, everybody's a virologist. It was Barack Obama who said, "I don't agree that when you become students at college, you have to be coddled and protected from different points of view." Yeah. We're living in a very diseased information age where we're drowning in information. Most of which is false. Is that fair?
Yes, and this is the technique of religion and cult. It's not the technique of a free society where you can debate things, and it's basically not the best for the most. It's the opposite.
Do you think Just Stop Oil's a cult?
Andrew, just let me say this. One of the things that shocked me about this idea of climate change, and forget the science of it for a second, which we can talk about. We've got up until 8 o'clock to talk
tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow morning, yeah.
That happened last time.
But you look at it and the sort of the criticisms the Protestants made of my faith, the Catholics. You've got this priestly class, these scientists who can't be questioned, and then you've got this idea of worshipping the earth, the priests of it, if you like, the climate change. And then, lo and behold, a child is sent to take away the sins of the world in Greta Thunberg. And you think, it's unbelievable. It's a pagan version of Christianity.
Well, it's a 21st century religion, is another way of... Polish people, I gave a talk to a group of Poles from the London... what's the school called? Oratory.
Yes.
And that was organised by their chemistry teacher, who's now retired. And he asked me if I would do more of the politics than I would have done before, which goes back to 1960 and Rockefeller and Strong and people. And I said, why? These are young people, they're not going to believe anything. He said, no, they're really interested, and I'm really interested because I came here from Poland because I was fed up with communism and being told what to think. I now live in a country which is worse than the Poland I left.
Really? Is that what he said?
But Brian, here is the shocker for me. Here is the shocker for me. it's now the young people who are protesting against freedom.
Yes, they're completely... Well, it's useful idiots. That's what the Russians called them.
But normally it would be people... I mean, in our generation, i.e. older people... No. I'm not saying you're the same age as me, Brian, no disrespect, pal.
He's much younger than you.
I will be honest, I have found the older generation much easier to debate with than a younger generation of people. They're very stuck in their ways.
You look at Hong Kong... We are considering sending basically the lawyers and the government in to force free speech in universities. In Hong Kong, they're trying to shut it down, the government.
Yeah. It is not a free society that you live in, and the whole business of having all these beliefs is exactly so that you can do what you're talking about, so that you can have control, you can arrest people for hate thought or whatever next. It's right. Big Brother. I mean, it's 90...
Can we chat some more? Will you stick around? Because this is absolutely fascinating. I know you've got a lot more to say, Brian.
You can't get me away from a microphone.
No. Yeah, we're just going to take a quick break and we'll be back in just a sec.